When mentioning Qatar, people often think of a small country located in the middle of a dry desert, but possessing huge oil and gas resources that help this country rise to the ranks of the richest countries in the world. However, to affirm its position and build a national brand on the global map, Qatar does not stop at oil wealth. The biggest turning point was when they became the host country of the 2022 FIFA World Cup, the biggest sporting event on the planet, and also the first time a Middle Eastern country hosted this football festival. To realize its ambition, Qatar spent a huge amount of money, estimated at about 200 billion USD. This is not only the largest number in the history of World Cups, but also a testament to the determination to turn this event into a comprehensive boost for the national image. That money was used to build a synchronous infrastructure system, the most prominent of which are 12 modern stadiums across the country. What especially caught the world's attention was the advanced cooling technology applied in the stadiums. With summer temperatures reaching up to 45–50 degrees Celsius, the biggest concern of fans and players was how to compete in such harsh conditions. Qatar solved the challenge with an air cooling system right in the stadium, bringing a comfortable and safe experience to everyone. From there, they proved that with financial resources and determination, even the harshest natural obstacles can be conquered. But the 2022 World Cup is not just about football. Through the event, Qatar wants to position itself as an international sports center, a place where top tournaments gather and become a familiar destination for fans around the world. These huge investments are not only to serve a month of passionate football, but also to leave a lasting legacy for tourism and trade development, and especially to enhance the country's image on the international stage. It can be said that the World Cup has become a powerful passport that helps Qatar step into the light, affirming its ambition to not only be a rich country, but also a global symbol of organizational ability, creativity, and aspiration to reach the world. If you look at the map, Qatar appears as a small peninsula jutting out from the Persian Gulf, with an area of only about 11,581 km², that is, slightly larger than Thanh Hoa province of Vietnam. With such a modest area, Qatar is not really outstanding, if only considering its geography. However, what is remarkable is that this country has been given by nature an extremely harsh living environment, but they still strive to become one of the richest and most modern countries in the world. In terms of climate, Qatar is located entirely in the desert, with hot weather lasting almost all year round. Summer temperatures can reach 45–50 degrees C, a number that makes anyone who hears it immediately feel the harshness. Rainfall is extremely low, vegetation is sparse, and wildlife is not abundant. Sandstorms, sometimes giant dust storms, are the biggest natural hazards that people here have to face. However, compared to many other places in the world, Qatar is almost immune to serious natural disasters such as earthquakes or hurricanes, creating a certain stability for social life. An interesting fact is that the entire territory of Qatar is completely forestless. This country is among the very few in the world that does not own a single natural forest, along with San Marino in Europe, Greenland in Denmark, and Oman in the Middle East. That also means that experiences such as picnicking in the forest or finding green shade are almost luxuries here. Due to arid conditions, only about 5% of Qatar's land area can be used for agriculture, and most of it is used to grow date palms, the symbolic tree of the Middle East. This story clearly reflects the limitations of nature on Qatar. The soil is not fertile, fresh water is scarce. In fact, most of the country's drinking water is produced through desalination technology from seawater, an expensive but necessary process to sustain life. It can be seen that from a land of sand and sun, Qatar still created modern cities, airports, stadiums, and world-class commercial centers. That further shows the strength of determination and superior resource management ability. The harsh geography and climate do not make Qatar backward, but on the contrary, become the foundation for this country to prove that, no matter how unfavorable nature is, humans can still turn this place into a rich and livable oasis. If you look at the world demographic map, Qatar is a special case. This country has an area just slightly larger than Thanh Hoa province and a population of only about 2.8 million people, equivalent to Binh Duong province in Vietnam. Despite its small size, Qatar's population structure and social life contain many interesting differences, directly reflecting the development based on oil and gas and the wave of labor immigration from all over the world. The first highlight is the seriously imbalanced gender ratio. In Qatar, on average, for every 3 men, there is 1 woman. The main reason comes from the immigrant labor force, which is mostly men from less developed countries. They come here to do heavy work, from construction, services, to other manual labor jobs. As a result, the population structure is strongly skewed, making Qatar one of the countries with a much higher ratio of men to women globally. Another characteristic is the extremely high population concentration in the capital. More than 90% of Qatar's population lives in Doha, making this city the country's almost sole political, economic, cultural, and social center. Doha is not only home to the most modern infrastructure, but also a microcosm that reflects the entire Qatari way of life. From skyscrapers, bustling commercial centers, to the constant presence of the super rich with supercars, yachts, and a lavish lifestyle. In addition to wealth, what makes Qatar attract to the world's attention is its level of social security. This country is ranked among the safest countries in the world, with an extremely low crime rate. Residents and visitors can enjoy life without worrying much about the risk of theft or violence. In terms of nature, Qatar is almost immune to major natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, or tropical storms. The only threat comes from sandstorms, but the impact is mainly in the desert, with little direct impact on life in large cities. It is the social stability and natural safety that have contributed to creating an ideal living environment for both the local people and millions of migrant workers. For Qataris, safety is almost a default right, along with other privileges such as free healthcare, education, electricity, and water, and almost no taxes. For immigrants, Qatar is a promised land, where they can find job opportunities and higher incomes than in their homeland, although they have to trade off being far from their families and harsh working conditions. In short, the small population, unbalanced gender structure, high population concentration in the capital, and the world-class safety level have created a very typical social picture of Qatar. It is a blend of Middle Eastern identity, oil and gas economic power, and globalized modern life, all present in one small, but one of the richest countries on the planet. When mentioning Qatar, people immediately think of wealth beyond imagination. This is one of the countries with the highest per capita income in the world, with a figure of about 59,000 USD per year, according to 2021 data. This GDP person has put Qatar regularly in the global top 10, on par with European financial powers such as Luxembourg, Switzerland, or Norway. Wealth is not only reflected in statistics, but also present in daily life. The rate of millionaires and billionaires per capita in Qatar is among the highest on the planet. According to financial reports, about 14% of Qatar's population owns at least 1 million USD in assets, while on a global scale, this figure is only about 0.9%. That means that in the capital city of Doha, it is completely normal to see rich, even super rich people. You can see supercars, yachts, and even private jets on the streets as part of everyday life. One of the special features of Qatari society is the comprehensive welfare policy for its citizens. Local people do not have to pay personal income tax and are exempt from medical, education, hospital fees, and even electricity and water. With these incentives, the concept of pressure to make a living is almost non-existent in Qatari life, in contrast to many other countries where people have to work hard to meet basic needs. Of course, heavy jobs such as construction, service, or manual labor are largely undertaken by immigrants. The source of this prosperity comes from oil and gas, which is the mainstay of Qatar's economy. The country has the world's third largest natural gas reserves and is the world's second largest producer. More than 70% of the country's total revenue comes from crude oil and liquefied natural gas, LNG exports. Thanks to these resources, Qatar has not only become an energy power, but also plays a strategic role in the global energy market. However, Qatar does not stop at relying on oil and gas. In order to avoid the risk of dependence on natural resources, they established the Qatar Investment Authority with a value of hundreds of billions of USD to invest in other industries around the world. Famous deals include the acquisition of the Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, football club in France, or owning a series of expensive real estate in London. This strategy not only helps diversify revenue sources, but also enhances the Qatar brand in the international arena. In short, Qatar's wealth and high standard of living come not only from its oil and gas resources, but also from its smart and bold management of its resources. With universal welfare, high incomes, and strategic global investments, Qatar has built an image of a country that is not only rich, but also sustainably rich and ambitious in the 21st century. Qatar is a small but wealthy and modern country, one of the most modern in the world. However, besides the luxury and prosperity often seen in the capital Doha, this country also possesses many interesting, even somewhat paradoxical, characteristics that surprise anyone who learns about it. The first curious thing is the story of sand. Qatar is located entirely in the desert. It seems that sand resources are endless. However, desert sand is too fine, small, and round, without the necessary adhesion for concrete production or modern construction. Therefore, a paradox occurs. Qatar has to import sand from abroad to serve the construction of skyscrapers, stadiums, roads, and giant infrastructure. This shows that even in its wealth, this country still faces very specific limits from nature. Another characteristic of Qatari culture is camel racing, a traditional sport considered a source of national pride. In the past, people often used children as jockeys because their light bodies helped camels run faster. However, due to human rights and safety issues, this form has been replaced by robot jockeys. Today, on the racetracks, camels are controlled by small robots equipped with modern electronic devices, both preserving tradition and ensuring humanity and fairness. This image has become a unique testament to how Qatar reconciles the past and modern technology. If you ask what reflects Qatar's wealth in daily life, the answer is definitely the price of gasoline. This country owns huge oil and gas reserves, so gasoline here is so cheap that it is likened to cheap as water. For the people, driving supercars, luxury SUVs, or even private jets is not only a hobby, but also a popular lifestyle. This is also the reason why Doha's roads are often lined with supercars, a rare sight in many other parts of the world. However, this luxury of comfort and fuel consumption habits also leads to a worrying consequence. Qatar is among the countries with the highest CO2 emissions per capita in the world. With a small population but huge energy needs, from air conditioning, seawater desalination, to transportation and construction, Qatar's emissions per capita far exceed many developed industrial countries. This is the challenge that this country is facing in the context of the global increasing focus on sustainable development and climate change mitigation. In short, Qatar is not only distinguished by its wealth, but also by its somewhat paradoxical characteristics. A desert country that imports sand, a traditional sport controlled by robots, a society where gasoline is incredibly cheap, but pays for it with huge emissions. These are the things that make Qatar modern, traditional, luxurious, but also challenging. A country that is truly different on the world map. Qatar is a living proof that a small country, despite facing harsh natural conditions, can still rise to become the richest and most modern center in the world. With an area of just over 11,500 kilometers and a population of less than 3 million people, Qatar has no forests, arid land, a year-round hot climate, and extremely limited freshwater resources. However, thanks to abundant oil and gas resources and an effective resource management strategy, this country has turned challenges into advantages. Oil and gas profits not only bring one of the highest per capita incomes in the world, but also help the government build a comprehensive welfare system, from healthcare, education, electricity and water, to personal income tax exemption. People are born almost by default to enjoy a high standard of living, stable social security, and modern infrastructure, on par with developed powers. Not stopping there, Qatar also shows a long-term vision when investing globally through the National Fund, owning many valuable assets from real estate in London to the Paris Saint-Germain football club. Sports, especially the 2022 FIFA World Cup, become a tool to build the national brand, helping Qatar affirm its position as an international center for events and tourism. In short, Qatar is a combination of wealth from resources, wise development strategy, and global aspirations. This is the typical image of a prosperous oasis in the heart of the sunny and windy Middle East.